Hey everyone, today I'm going to explain to you how to create your own WordPress theme with WooCommerce integration. So you might be curious to create your own WordPress theme, which is great, but you might also want to make it an online shop. So it needs to work with WooCommerce. Now there's a lot of videos online that explain how to use WooCommerce itself, install it as a plugin and then maybe it works within a particular theme that you've purchased. But this one's going to be so you can create it yourself. You can actually create the website yourself and then add in the WooCommerce functionality into it, which allows you to customize it much more. This video will be quite a long video, so I will put a glossary of what I've done so that you can refer to different things at different times in the video. And so let's get started. First thing that you should know is that I'm using a blank virtual machine. So I'm going to start from scratch and I'm going to install all the things that I need to install in order for this project to happen. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want it to go onto Chrome or onto Internet Explorer or whatever you use and go and look for XAMPP, which is XAMMP. And it's a web server solution for your computer. So you can actually run it on your computer and then you can develop a website locally. In the case of WordPress, WordPress requires a MySQL database. It also needs PHP and it will all be achievable through XAMPP. So the first thing you want to do is, if you're running on Windows, click on Windows and download the file. And I downloaded it earlier, so we're going to install it now. Okay, so this warning has come up. I'm just going to click OK. And I'm going to click Next. And then click Next again. And just install it into the C XAMPP folder. We'll just untick that. Click Next, Next, and then just let it run. So right now, this is going to install MySQL on your computer. It's going to install a folder on your computer which you can place all of your websites into. And in this case, we're going to install WordPress into that folder. So I'll just wait for this to install and I'll get back to you shortly. Okay, so this Windows Defender firewall has come up. I'm just going to click on both of these boxes here and allow access. Okay, so XAMPP is now installed on the computer and I'm going to select English and save. And now you'll notice on the right hand side, well actually on the right hand side here is the XAMPP icon, which you can click on it at any time. But it also does pop up. So let's get it started. Let's just click on Apache and MySQL to start. If any of these messages come up, just click both boxes and click Allow Access. And there we go. As you can see, the ports are set and it says PIDS. I don't know what that means, but in my experience, when that is showing, it means it's actually working. So what we want to do now is, with XAMPP installed, we can go into our Google Chrome and we can just type in localhost. Localhost. And as you can see now, this actually comes to the XAMPP web server, which is fantastic. So another thing we can do is, if we go to localhost PHP MyAdmin, that is actually PHP MyAdmin. It's like the web interface for MySQL. So you can create a new database and all that sort of stuff. Okay. So now that we've got XAMPP set up, what we want to do is we want to set up WordPress and start making it working on our local server. To set up WordPress, let's get out of our browser here and go into our C drive, and we'll see the new folder called XAMPP installed. If you click on XAMPP and you go into htdocs, this is the main folder where you can install your projects. So what I'm going to do is delete all of these files in here because we don't need them. And then what I'm going to do is go into Chrome and I'm going to download WordPress. So let's do a search for WordPress. Actually, just go to wordpress.org. Don't go to wordpress.com because that's WordPress's commercial offering, similar to say Wix and all that sort of stuff, where they host it for you. But we want to actually just download the file to install on our own server. So now that we have the WordPress site up, just click on Get WordPress and then click on Download WordPress 5.21 or whichever version is relevant to when you're doing this tutorial. Now that we have WordPress downloaded, let's click into WordPress and it will be a zip file. Now I don't have any fancy zip programs on my computer right now, so it's just going to open up in Windows zip. So what we want to do is we want to grab that zip or sorry, the folder WordPress, and drag it into our htdocs folder. It's going to unzip the files into there, and we can then rename the folder to whatever we want once it's in there. Now that WordPress is in there, if we actually go to, say, localhost /WordPress, as long as our XAMPP is working, you'll notice here that WordPress is now at the installation screen. So we've gotten to the stage where we can set up the database and all that sort of stuff. So the first thing we want to do is just click on Let's Go, obviously, and then we want to choose the database name. So in XAMPP, if we go to localhost phpMyAdmin, and we create a new database, and we'll just call it WordPress. We have a new database now, and the standard configuration for XAMPP in MySQL is put the database name, which is WordPress, and then we just put the username as root, and we put no password at all. And then once you do that, if you hit submit, it will actually work. And then just do run the installation, and we're just going to call it WooCommerce website. I'll just put in a password. And if you're doing this, well, you're doing this locally, so it doesn't matter about discouraging search engines because they won't be able to see this website anyway. And then click on Install WordPress. So you'll notice if we go into phpMyAdmin now, it's set up in the database here, and we can just log in now with our details. And I am using a virtual machine, and I think that might be what's contributing to the speed of this website. So if you're using your standard machine on XAMPP, it should be much, much quicker. So that's WordPress setup. Now what I'm going to do is show you how to change it. So we can call it, say, WooCommerce.development or .dev or .test. I'm going to make it WooCommerce.test, so we're not using localhost /. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go into our XAMPP folder, which is in our C drive, go into Apache and go into conf, go into extra, and then we have a few files here. We want to go into the vhosts file. So I'm going to open it up, and I don't have a proper text editor, so I'm going to open it up in Notepad, and you'll see that there are some entries in here. What we want to do is copy this entry and then remove these hashes, and we want to make this WooCommerce.test. Take away the hashes there as well, and we also want to link it to the specific folder that we're doing it. So if we go into our XAMPP htdocs WordPress, so we just want to do WordPress, okay, and make sure those hashes are gone as well. Don't worry about these other ones, you can just remove them if you'd like, and save it. The second thing we need to do is go into our hosts file and change that. So what we will do is we'll go to our C drive, Windows, drivers, I think it is driver, no, it's System 32. My bad, sorry, System 32, drivers, etc. And there'll be a host file there. Drag it onto your desktop because there are some permissions with editing it directly. Okay. Open it up in Notepad. And then we want to add in 127.0.0.1 and then WooCommerce.test. Save it and then drag it back in. The last thing we want to do is we want to go into XAMPP and we want to restart XAMPP. That's if it wants to load. We'll stop Apache, and then we will restart Apache. Go back into Chrome, and I'm just going to get rid of this error here because this is really annoying me right now. Okay, and then we want to go into our local host, phpMyAdmin, and we want to just change the database tables to point to our new URL. So if we go to WP options and we can see site URL and home, just want to change site URL to http woocommerce.test. And we also want to change our home to woocommerce.test as well. So now if we get out of that, go back into our browser and we try woocommerce.test, there we go. Now our WordPress website is working on XAMPP and it's also using a custom URL. Not that you need to do that, but it just makes it, I guess, more fancy. Okay, so now we have WordPress installed, and if we go to wordpress.test/admin, you'll notice it doesn't work. And that's because we need to update our permalink structure. So we need to go to woocommerce.test/wplogin.php, type in our details, and go to settings permalinks, and then just basically save changes. But what you can do also while you're there is change it to post name so it has SEO friendly URLs. So now we'll log out of that and we will go to, we'll click on something, and as you can see all the pages are working now, and also /admin is working as well. Okay, so WordPress is ready to go, and now I'm just going to show you what to install on your computer so that we can make this whole workflow much quicker and much easier to do. So there are two things that I would suggest that you download in order to make this project easier to build. One is a text editor. My favorite right now is Sublime Text, and there is a free version. So let's just go onto Google and look for Sublime Text. And let's just download Sublime Text for Windows. And once you've downloaded it, just install it onto your computer. Put it wherever it suggests or wherever you want it to. And once it's installed, that is now your text editor that we can edit PHP code in and HTML and all that sort of stuff. The second thing we want to install is something called Node.js. And the reason why we want to install Node.js is because it allows us to use a thing called Webpack. Now, every web developer has their own way, their own workflow of doing things, and especially when you're doing it professionally, you need tools that help you get it done quicker. Now, you could very well build a website just using CSS, which is fine, but CSS and HTML and PHP and all that sort of stuff, of course. But with CSS, there's a much simpler way and much quicker way to do things, and that's called using something called Sass. So when we install Node, we can then use something called Webpack, which will automatically convert our CSS to Sass, or sorry, our Sass to CSS, and it will compile it so that we can do it much quicker in Sass, and then it will convert it into CSS. Now, if this sounds all hard, don't worry, watch what I do, and you should understand it very, very easily. So let's go into our Chrome again and look for Node.js. And let's just install the recommended version for most users. And we will then go next, accept the agreement, next, install, yes. Okay, so Node.js has now been installed. And now we can go into our XAMPP folder and look at our project. So XAMPP, htdocs, WordPress, and you'll notice that I still can't see these files in Sublime Text. So let's just click on one of them and make it open within Sublime Text. So we'll just do a search for Sublime Text and make that the default. Okay, and then let's go into Sublime Text and open up our project, which is in obviously the C XAMPP, htdocs, WordPress, WP content, and themes. That's where I would probably open it up, so we can create the theme and we can then add the files into the theme. Okay, so let's get out of that and go back into Chrome and go into our woocommerce.test website, and we want to log into it. Now I'm just going to clean up a few things here just to make it really simple to look at. Okay, and go into appearance and themes. Okay, so let's start off with our theme. The first thing we want to do is just delete all of the themes that are in there right now. Okay, so let's just start from scratch. I don't want anything confusing you. So we'll refresh it. There's going to be an error here because there's no theme at all. We need to create a theme. So to create a theme, just go right click on themes folder and create a new folder, and we're just going to call it a WooCommerce theme. Okay, and inside there, we're going to create a new file called index.php, which is kind of like the first file that WordPress hits when it loads the theme. We don't need to put anything in it right now. And then we want to create something called style.css. Style.css. Now that we have our style.css file, that is actually our main CSS file. Okay, so we need to put some comments in here so that WordPress knows the name of our theme, it knows the author, and all that sort of stuff. So if we actually go to a website on Chrome, which is it's a developer website, we'll just type in developer WordPress main style sheet and click on this here, and this will show us what the basic structure for a main style sheet is. So let's just grab all of that and paste it into our Sublime text, and we're going to change it. So we're going to call this my first WooCommerce site, and we're going to take out a lot of this stuff, so we don't really need any of that unless you're going to release it for sale or something like that. You don't even need to do it. So I'm just going to do this. Theme name is that, and author is Mr. Digital. And let's go and look at the themes page now. So you'll see that we have 2019, which doesn't even exist, so don't worry about that. But then we have my first WooCommerce site. So let's activate that. Great, we have our first WooCommerce theme. It doesn't work at all. So if we go into our website, it's just a blank page. There's also no image here. So what you can do is you can add an image into your theme folder. So if you add an image into this WooCommerce theme folder called screenshot.png, that will actually then be this image. So the image is, what do we got here? You need to make it, I don't know the exact specifications, but just add in an image that is a square or like slight rectangle like this, and it will automatically show here. Okay, so now that we have our theme set up, we need to start building it. There are some other aspects or other pages that we need to add into this folder in order for it to work. So the first thing we need to do is add in a header and footer. Okay, so the header and the footer are things that kind of repeat on every single page. You might put your logo on your header and your menu on your header, and maybe your footer menus on your footer, obviously, so that each page has that. So let's do a new file called header.php. And we'll also do one called footer.php. Okay, and then we need to create something called functions.php, and that's where we can input all of our WordPress functions and hooks and all the settings that we want to put into our theme. We can put it into our functions.php. So let's create it called functions.php. We then want to create a new page for our standard page template, which is just page.php. And then we want to create one for our single blog post, which is called single.php. There's also a template for your front page. So whichever page you set to be your front page, we'll create that. And that's front-page.php. For any archives or blog post archives, we need to create a basic template for that, which covers all archives, and that's called archive.php. We also have 404.php, which is the 404 error page. So you can customize that. We'll just call it 404.php. Now that we have our basic templates set up, we want to start adding in our HTML scaffolding. Okay, so in Sublime Text, just go into header.php, and we want to start adding our HTML markup. So in the latest Sublime Text, you can just type in HTML tab, and it will automatically create the markup for you. So the header will include the HTML header tag, the body tag, but then these two closing tags, we want to actually take them away. I'm going to make my text bigger here. Take them away and go into our footer and place that into our footer. Okay, so we have our header page, which shows the opening HTML, the opening head and closing head, and then the start of our body, and then the footer shows just the closing body and the closing HTML. Now that we have our header and our footer, we want to then go into our front page, and we will include our header and our footer into the template so that it can use that for the header and the footer, obviously. So what you need to do is go into the frontpage.php file and do php get header, and then we will also type in php get footer. Okay, so now that we've got that set up, let's go into our theme, and we will into our WordPress dashboard, and we'll go to settings. Actually, we'll go to settings and reading, I believe. Okay, now, yeah, in reading settings, we have your homepage displays your latest posts. We want to change it to a static page, and we want to make it our homepage, but we haven't set one up yet. So let's go to pages, and I'm going to delete these pages so we start from scratch. I'm going to click on add new, and we're just going to call it home. Now, for any of you guys or girls that don't like the latest update to the WordPress editor called Gutenberg, we can change that. So let's go to our plugins and type in and do a search. So we'll do a search, we'll go on add new here, and we'll do classic editor. And as you can see, it's right at the top. So let's just install that. And once it's installed, we should see our pages and posts looking like the original WordPress setup. So I'm just going to delete these plugins as well. Go to pages, go to home, and you'll notice it looks normal now, or as it used to. Now if we go to settings and we go to reading, make our front page a static page and make it our home page. So if we go to our website now, it's still blank, but if we look at the code, you'll notice that we have our header and our footer. Okay, so we have the basic markup done, and now we need to go into our header and footer and then add in some extra pieces of code which will allow us to hook in our style sheet and our JavaScript into our theme. This also allows other plugins like WooCommerce to add in the style sheets and JavaScript required for those plugins to run as well. So it's very, very important that we do this. So if we go into our header.php and look between the head tags here, we want to add in a PHP code called PHP WP head. And then we want to go into our footer and go to the bottom there and just add in WP footer. That allows the theme to inject CSS, JavaScript for plugins and our customizations as well directly into our theme without having to type it in directly. One last thing we need to do is add in the body class, and we use the body class because sometimes plugins want to add in different classes into your theme and they might need to dynamically add in a class. So for example, with WooCommerce adds a few classes to each page. For say the shop page, it will be body class equals shop or something similar. So let's just add in the ability for that to happen. Let's in the body tag type in PHP body class And if you want to add in any of your own customizations, you can just go in here and type whatever you want. So let's just do test, okay? But this will allow now other plugins to add in classes as well. So let's go back to our theme and refresh the screen. You'll notice firstly as well that now the WordPress admin bar comes up, and that's because we added in the WP head and WP footer. But if we go to our source, you'll see all of the WordPress injected style sheets and stuff like that has been added. And you'll also notice that we have our test class there, as well as the other classes that have been injected directly by WordPress. So yes, it is very, very important that we add in this body class tag as well. Now that we have added in our header and footer tags, we can then go and start adding in our style sheets and JavaScript for our new theme. To do that, we want to hook in the JavaScript and style sheets through our functions.php file. The reason why we do that, as opposed to just adding in the style sheets directly like this, is that we want it to be dynamic. And using the functions.php, it will allow other plugins that might need to work with your JavaScript and your CSS to work. So for example, there are plugins, caching plugins such as WP Rocket, that can concatenate all your CSS and JavaScript so that it's all really minified and really small, and it can't do it if it doesn't know where it is. So it won't know if it's hard coded in here, but it will know if it's been enqueued. That's what you call it, enqueued in WordPress. So let's firstly load our style sheets. So what we want to do is we want to create a new function inside this functions.php file, and we'll call it function load style sheets. And inside there, we want to use something called WP register style, which is a function in WordPress. And inside WP register style, we need to add in some arguments so that it knows where this style sheet is. So the first argument in this function is something called a handle. It's just the name that we want to call it. So we're just going to call this style sheet. The second argument is the source. So it needs to know where this style sheet is. So we need to use a bit of PHP to tell it where it is. So the first thing we want to do is get the URL of the style sheets folder, which is get template directory URI, which is a function that gets the URL to the style sheet. And then we just want to do style.css. The third option is dependencies. So if your style sheet depends on anything, we don't have any dependencies for the style.css, so we'll just add a blank space. And then the fourth option is the version. You don't have to put a version, but what we can do is just put version 1, or you can make it blank. And then media is the fifth argument, and that is to specify if it is for a different type of media. So for example, if it's for a screen, or if it's for a handheld, or if it's for print. But in our case, we just want to make it all. So it's going to work on all devices. Then we want to enqueue this particular style sheet. So we do WP enqueue style sheet, which it is referring to the registration we just did up there. And then what we want to do is at the bottom of this whole function, we want to do add action, which is basically telling WordPress, okay, add this function into this specific area. So WP enqueue scripts is a function that is done in WordPress, and we're going to hook in to this particular function that runs every single time, our load style sheets function. Okay, so we're basically adding upon the WP enqueue scripts function that WordPress has, we're adding in our extra bit. Okay, so once we save that and we go into our theme and refresh the source, you should notice now that our style sheet, oh, no, that's not it, our style sheet is there. Okay, so if I go here and I don't add that action and I try and refresh the screen, you'll notice that that style sheet will go away. So we know it's definitely working. The second thing we want to do is add in the JavaScript. So hook in the JavaScript to the footer of our website. So let's just do function add, we'll do load JavaScript. And it's very similar to what we did above, but we're going to do WP register script instead. So we want to create our own custom JavaScript file, and we'll call it app.js. So the first argument is the name or the handle, which we'll just call custom. We'll do comma, and then we'll tell it where the actual file is. So we will do exactly the same thing as above. We'll copy this, but we'll obviously change it to app.js. And then the next one we want to just leave blank again, which is the dependencies. Now, if you do have a dependency of jQuery, you can type in jQuery there. And let's just make jQuery a dependency in there, which means that it's going to look for jQuery in order for that JavaScript to run. We will then do the version of 1, and if we want it to be in the footer, we will make it true, I believe. We want it to be in the footer, so we will do true. And then underneath that, we do WP enqueue. Enqueue script custom. And now that we've done that, we'll go into to the bottom of the function, and we'll do add action WP enqueue scripts, and then the name of our function, which is called load JavaScript. Okay, so we actually don't have an app.js file, but it will still add it into the code. So if we refresh it now, you will notice that we have our style sheet, and then if we go to the bottom of our site, you should notice, do we have app.js? Yes, our app.js is now there, but obviously when you click on it, it doesn't load because it can't be found. So let's create our app.js file. In our theme, new file, app.js. And then we can look at our code again and go to app.js, and it should be there. Fantastic. Okay, so now we have enqueued our style sheets and our JavaScript. Let's sort out how we're going to manipulate our CSS and our JS so that it makes it much quicker to develop. Okay, so a beginner would most likely use standard CSS, which would just be going into your style.css and do say body, and we'll do background equals black, and go into our theme, and of course it will be black. And you can do that. That is completely fine. If you're more comfortable using CSS, then go right ahead and do that. But I'm going to teach you a trick of mine. I don't know if a lot of people use this, but this is a trick of mine, and it just makes the whole workflow much, much better. So what we're going to use is a thing called Webpack, and Webpack, just simply put, allows you to bundle up your assets. So if you use Sass, you can use a Sass file, add in all the Sass code, and then Webpack will run in the background and grab that Sass and convert it to CSS. And it's like using other pre-compilers, like say, there's a thing called Koala, which you can use, which pre-compiles your Sass. Again, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to, but let's make it work. So, and you'll see it in action, and you'll probably understand it a bit better. So let's go into Google and look for something called Laravel GitHub. Now, Laravel is a PHP framework. The reason why we're looking for that is because we're going to use the Webpack, which has already been set up for Laravel, and we're just going to use it in our setup. So first thing we want to do is grab the package.json file. Let's grab the raw stuff, copy that, and go into our project, create a new file called package.json. You also then want to go back into there and grab webpack.mix.js, which is this file. Click into it, go to raw, copy it, and create a new file, paste it in there, webpack.mix.js. Okay, cool. Now, if we go into webpack.mix.js, you'll notice that we have a couple of settings here. The first thing is asking us where our original file is that we're going to be editing, like our source file for JavaScript or our source file for Sass. So let's just say that's going to be in source, just in our source folder, and we're also we're going to call that style.scss, and here it's going to be source.app.js, okay, source/app.js. And then we're going to tell it where we want it to put that file once it's been compiled. So we're just going to tell it to go into our main folder, which is just ./ and ./. So when we edit our source app.js, that's going to automatically override our app.js, which is in our main theme folder. When we edit our source.style.css, it's going to edit our style.css file. But we probably don't want it to edit our style.css, because I think style.css might be better just to keep this in there. And then we create another CSS folder, CSS file, which we enqueue into our theme as a separate file. So let's just call it app.scss. I've already created a folder called source, so you may have missed that, or I may have just done it without recording. So inside this folder called source, if you create one, you can then create a file called app.js and create another file called app.scss, okay? Now that we have everything set up to work, what we want to do is, I'm just going to close out of everything to keep it simple, is we want to run run Node. Now we installed Node.js before. So if we go into we need to go into our terminal. Now we can go into MS-DOS and all that sort of stuff, but I think we could probably find something in Sublime Text that will allow us to do it. So if we go to, where will we go? So we want to go to Browse Packages, no, not Browse Packages, Tools, Install Package Control. Now this is firstly going to install package control, which is like, getting plugins for Sublime Text. Now that it's installed, if we go to Preferences, Package Control, and just look for Install Package, click on Install Package, and then we want to search for something like Terminal. So let's click on Terminal, and that's going to download, as you can see at the bottom here. So if we now right click on WooCommerce theme, you should see Open Terminal here, and that will actually open it up in Windows PowerShell, which is exactly what we need. So to get all of this Webpack working, we want to do npm install. Sorry about all the mistakes I'm making. As you can see, it's installing everything because it's going off this package.json file, and it's installing all the things that we need for Webpack to run. So you might just need to wait a tiny bit for it to download, and once it downloads, we can start using Webpack and you'll see it in action. Great, so now Node has been installed, or NPM has been installed onto our project. Let's then try something. Let's do npm run watch. Okay, now we need to keep this open, okay? And what this does is it's watching for any changes in our app.js file. Okay, so once it says compiled successfully, if we go into our folder, our WordPress content themes, oops, I think I'm in the wrong file here. So we go to C, XAMPP, htdocs, WordPress, WP content themes, WooCommerce theme. You'll notice that we now have our app.js and our app.css file in here. We didn't create them in here. That was compiled automatically. Okay, so if I now go, let's minimize the watcher. If I go into my source and I'll go to app.css and type in body, background is red. Okay. Once I hit save, you'll notice that at the bottom here it says Laravel Mix build successful, which means that I've added that into my source file, but if I go into app.css, it should be there as well. Awesome. Okay. So that is basically converting Sass to CSS now. We just need to then put our app.css file enqueued into our theme. So let's go to functions and let's add a new one, and we're going to call it, we'll copy this and we'll just call it custom. And we're going to change this to app.css and save it. Now our background obviously should be red. Okay, and now we can start, instead of editing the style.css or even these ones in our main folder, we go into our source and we edit everything in there. So now I'll show you the power of CSS. So let's go into our header and let's add in a header tag, and we're going to add our menu onto here. Okay, And let's then put another div inside here called test. Okay, so we want to target the test class within our header. If you do it in standard CSS, you'll do say .header, .test, or no, .header, and or my bad, header .test background equals green. Okay, we'll save that, refresh it. Nothing will happen because we haven't specified a height or anything like that. So we'll just do height 100 pixels, width 100 pixels, 100%. Refresh it. You'll notice that that's there now. However, in Sass, what we can do is we can kind of include it within the header tag. So header, and then within header we do test. And there we go. Then we can contain everything that's for the header within its tag itself. This is a really simple explanation of Sass, but it just makes life much easier. As you can see, it still does exactly the same thing. And when it's compiled to CSS, it does exactly the same thing as well. Okay, so let's get out of that. One thing we have, or I have missed, is Bootstrap. So we want to put Bootstrap into our project. Now, since we have set up Webpack, we can include it into our project through our source. So to do that, we need to just go into our terminal and just do npm install Bootstrap. This is going to download Bootstrap. It's going to put it in to a folder on our theme, and then we can include it through our Sass. So to now include the Bootstrap CSS into our theme or into our Sass file, we just need to import node modules, Bootstrap, SCSS Bootstrap. Hit save and you'll say build successful, and you'll notice that it is blank, but if we go into our source and we go into our app.css, you'll see that Bootstrap is now in there. Now, I just want to reiterate this again. You do not have to do it this way. You can install Bootstrap, you can use a CDN, you can do however you want to do it. You can enqueue Bootstrap within here by just adding, a new folder called CSS and adding bootstrap.css into there, then enqueuing it here. But this is just how I do it to make it quicker, okay? So now that we have Bootstrap CSS, we want to do the Bootstrap JS as well. So to do bootstrap.js, you just go into your app.js file and you do require bootstrap. Okay, and automatically Bootstrap will be installed into your app.js. So if we go into our file now, into our website, go to app.js, you should see that Bootstrap is in there. There's a lot of other things in there as well. Don't worry too much, because what's going to happen is that when we decide to go live with this, we'll do npm run prod. And that is automatically going to combine everything into files so that they're fully minified. So I'm just going to run it now and show you how it does it. You'll see now that it's been compiled. And if we refresh this now, you'll notice that it's fully combined. So it minifies the size of the file. So what we'll do now is just do npm run watch again. Let that run and watch in the background whilst we design the website. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get out of these, and we're going to go into our header and we're going to start scaffolding this thing. So we'll just do a header in our header.php, and this is basically going to display the menu. And inside header, we're going to do div container. So that's going to allow us to use the Bootstrap container. And then let's do some styling for this. So let's go to our app.scss, and we will create a new CSS file called, or SCSS file called header or underscore header.scss, and we will then include the header into this file so that we can segment all the different parts of our CSS. And you just do that by import header. It automatically refers to the name header inside our source file. So then we can start working on our header within the header.css. So let's just open up the tag header and let's just give it a background of white, and we'll make a height of 100 pixels, and we'll also do a box shadow of 0px, 0px, 20 pixels, RGBA 0000.25. And that is basically a shadow behind the header. So if we go there, you'll notice that we have our header at the top and we have our box shadow underneath it. Now, just another cool thing in Sass is in our source file folder, if we create a new file called, we'll call it colors_colors.scss, and we'll create a variable called white, or we'll just call it light, and we'll make it go to FFF, which is white. We'll then go into our header and make that the variable. So you can attribute the variable to anything you want, and then you only have to change it once in colors.scss. Last thing you need to do is obviously just go and import colors. Now, one thing I've noticed is that the colors aren't actually changing here based on the type of document that I'm working with. So I need to just find something on here that will change the colors so that, there we go. So we'll just go to view syntax and make it SCSS. And if we get out of header and go back in, it should detect it, but it's not. So we just have to go to CSS there as well. And there we go. Now it's got the colors, so it's less confusing. Now in our header, we want to go into our header.php, and then let's add a logo. So image source equals, I'm going to find a logo. So I'm just going to use the WooCommerce logo. Save that image. And we'll go into our project folder and we'll create a new folder called images. And we will then drag that into images, and we'll just call it logo, logo.png. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go image source, and then inside there we need to do PHP blog info template directory, which is where the template is. And then images, and then logo.png. We'll do class equals image fluid, and that's a Bootstrap class which is for making it responsive. And then if we refresh, we should see the logo there, but it's not centered, which is a bit annoying. So what we can do there is, instead of giving the header a height, we'll just do padding. So padding of say 1 rem and 0 on the ends. Refresh it. There we go. Maybe even make the logo slightly smaller. So let's give our logo a class of logo, and then in header.css we'll just do logo width equals 150 pixels. There we go. So it's quite small and it fits quite well, and it is responsive, I believe. So yep, everything looks good for the phone and the desktop. So that's all good. Okay, so now we want to add the menu. We're going to add the menu at the top right, and we're also going to link it up with WordPress's menu function. Now, if we go into our admin dashboard, you'll notice that we don't have menus here. We can't see menus. We need to add in the support there because we're using a bare bones WordPress theme. We need to go to our functions, go to the bottom here, and then do add theme support menus, and we'll just do add theme, add menus. And then also don't forget that semicolon there. Go back into the admin and refresh now, and you'll notice that we have menus now, but we don't have any menus set up. We want to create a menu location. Okay, so the menu location will allow us to assign locations to different parts of our theme, and then we can choose whichever menus we need to display there in our WordPress admin panel. So let's register some menus. In there we'll do register nav menus, and inside this particular function we want to create an array. So array, and then inside there we'll create one called top menu, and we'll do arrow underscore, which is for translations, and then top menu and just call this theme, which is the name of the theme. You can actually, I believe you may be able to just do this. So let me just see if we can do it like that. If you don't care about translations. Now if we go into our admin and refresh it, if we create a menu, we'll just call it top menu. You should see top menu is now there. So if we save that, that means that wherever we place the top menu location code on our theme, this menu will come up. So I'll just add this to the menu. And then we need to go into our theme and we just need to add in the menu code so that that location displays there. So to do that, go into our theme and get out of these things and just go into this area of our header and type in PHP WP nav menu, and then inside there, array. Close this off as well. And inside the array, we want to do theme location, and we want it to go to top menu. So it's going to refer to this. Okay. So now that we have that set up, if we go into our theme, you should see home is there now. It doesn't look great, but it's there. So let's style it a bit. Let's go into our header.scss, and I'm going to make it so that we can view the syntax properly. And we want to then make it side by side. So what we can do with Bootstrap, which is great, is we can actually use something called Flexbox. So inside the container here, do something called dflex. If we go into our folder and refresh, you'll notice that now it's still not looking good. So what we want to do is we want to align items center. And we also want to do justify content between, which means that it's always going to, if there are two items, it's going to make them one end show one item, the other end show the other item. So there we go. We have our logo and then our menus on the right hand side. Then let's go into our header.css and let's fix up the menu. So the menu has a class. Let's go into the class here or into the source and look at the class, which is menu top menu, but it also has class and menu. So I'm going to make it that. So in our header.css, we'll go .menu and we'll do list style type none, margin 0, padding 0. Refresh. And this should take away all the padding of the unordered list and also the bulleted points. And let's add a few more pages to our website. So let's just about us, and we'll also do contact us. Save the menu, go there, refresh, about us, contact us. But still, they're not next to each other. So what we want to do there is we want to make it so that the menu items are also using the flexbox. So we can go into our PHP nav menu code and do menu class d-flex justify. Actually, we can just do dflex and refresh it, and you'll notice now they're looking like that. Again, it's not how we want it to look exactly. So let's go into our header.css and do li list style type none. Every time we change the source file, it automatically builds it for us. So refresh, and you'll notice that it hasn't done anything. So I've just got to see why that's not happening. So we've used class dflex here, and then we have also, okay, so that it's actually taken away the class. So we need to go in here and make it menu. We'll just call it top menu, okay? Top dash menu, and then go here, change this to top dash menu, And then if we refresh it, it should go away. So, okay, so now they're working fine, but the links are too close together. So let's go and do li, and within the li, we can do a, which is the anchor or link, and we can make that a block. And we'll also do padding, is make it 0.25 rem. Okay, and there's a bit more space between them. We could probably make a margin. So margin, actually we'll just give it some more padding. So just do 0.25 rem at the top and then 1 rem at the bottom. Or top and bottom. Oh, left to right, my bad, sorry. Okay, so home, about us, contact us. And they're separated quite nicely. Obviously we can style the anchor tags to what we want. Let's just go into colors and we'll create something called green, and we'll just call it, we'll give it a color code of, we'll just call it green actually. And then the color will be green. Okay. And we might make the font size a bit larger, so 1.1 rem, and we'll give it a font weight of bold. Cool. Okay, so not the nicest looking menu. Actually, I'm just going to make it black. So we'll call a variable called dark. So let's just go here, create dark, and we'll make that 333. Save that, and then save our header. Make sure you save the variable of the color before you actually save it, otherwise it will give us an error. So there you go. Okay, so we have our menu at the top now. If we make this page smaller, sorry about that. It's not going to work exactly how you want it to from a mobile perspective, because this menu will get larger and it's going to look a bit strange. So you probably want to make it so that after a certain endpoint, it doesn't work. So after a certain screen size. So top menu, we'll make it at media screen, and min width, let's make it 992 pixels. Display equals, okay, how are we going to do this? Actually, what we can do, go here, remove deflex here, and go to top menu and make it at media screen, and min width 992 pixels, which is probably the size of something smaller than an iPad, and then just do display equals flex, and then before that rule we'll just do display equals none, which will make it not display from mobile devices. There we go, so it works here, but if we go to say a mobile, it goes away. Cool. All right, so that's it. Now let's, I'm going to speed this up a bit because I don't want this to take too long, this tutorial. We'll go into our frontpage.php folder or file, and we'll do div id equals hero. And I'll create a new Sass. I mean, we don't have to create a new Sass for everything. I'm just going to do it on here so that it's quicker. We'll just do hero, and we'll do height equals 400 pixels, width equals 100%. Background is gray. And I'm not going to use a color code for this. We'll just type that in directly. Color code in Sass, I mean. Okay, and then we've added the div in there already, so let's go refresh, and you should see that it now comes up like that. So we'll make it about 550. And inside our div, we're going to put a container. And inside there, we'll just do h1, welcome to my shop. Refresh it. Still doesn't look the best. But what you can do is you can go into the hero, into the container, and do deflex, align items center, justify content center. And it's actually it should align the welcome to my shop right into the middle of the screen. but we also need to do H100, which makes the container a height of 100. So there you go. And if we try and look at it on our mobile, it still kind of looks good. You might have to do some media queries to make the text smaller. You can also add background to this, this hero. So I'm just going to do that. I'll just find some fashion photos or something like that. I guess we're creating a fashion shop. And let's see what we can do here. Not sure what that is there. Okay, let's look at some images and let's just get this photo. Actually, it's too small, so we want to get something a bit larger. Not safe search. Tools, size, larger than 2 megapixels. Let's grab this photo, okay? And we will save it. Hopefully it's the large version that we wanted. Yep, cool. All right, and we're going to grab that and put it in our images folder, and we'll just call it hero. We'll go here, go to app, where are we? App.scss, and do background, URL, images, hero.jpg, and refresh it. And you'll notice that it's not working. So let's have a look at the actual, now Laravel Webpack is going crazy. So I'm just going to stop it for a second. And I'll go into here and I will look at the code and see why this isn't actually coming up. Okay, so it looks like it's adding something to the file. So let's just fix that up. Because we're using Webpack, it might be doing something a bit strange. There may be a setting in Webpack that we need to do just to make it so that it doesn't process the links. So what we can do is go into, let's just remove that, go into Webpack and do something here called .options and do process CSS URLs false. Okay, so that should do it. And then if we just go into our terminal again and just do npm run watch. Okay, I'm doing something wrong here. Something's mucking around here. So just give me 1 second. I'm just going to close out of Laravel Mix. Okay, so it was going mental because I did it wrong. So we need to actually go into Webpack and just make sure that there is a dot there. So I didn't have a dot there, it was going mental. We're telling it so it doesn't process the URLs. So now we can just make it images hero.jpg. And if we refresh, then the image should be there as we required. Great, so now we have our text right over the model's face. So let's just go here and make it so that it's not justified to the center. There we go. And just before we finish that off, we want to just make the H1, which is in there, a color of white or light. There we go. Okay, so we've got our basic setup. When we created the menu before, we click on that, it will actually take us to the About Us page, but it's a blank page right now. It's not a 404 page. That we haven't set up a 404 page yet. So let's just go and create the 404 page quickly. So we'll grab all the content from the front page, paste it in there, and maybe just do, div container. This page was not found. You can obviously customize it to however you want. Okay, so if we go to About Us now, it it is actually a page that exists. We actually created that page, but it's using the page.php template. So we actually need to grab the front page content, paste it into page, and then maybe we can remove this hero. And then let's just put in h1, the title of the page, which is PHP, the title. And there you go. So now we've got it about us on, and then contact us and home. Let's just make the page look a bit better. So we'll put it in a container, which is a Bootstrap container. And let's give the container, so we'll call the container main container. And then go into our app.scss and do main container as padding 2 rem and then 0. So 2 rem top to bottom and then 0 left to right, because Bootstrap's container uses that to Bootstrap makes the padding on the left and right automatic. And also within there, we just want to do div col, which is a column within Bootstrap, and div row. So wrap row around column. Actually, we'll start that again, and we'll just do PHP the title and just leave it like that. There is one thing you can see is that the logo and the about us is a bit off in terms of that they are not in line. So let's just go to our header and we'll see why. And I think it could potentially be because of this. So let's create a row with Bootstrap here. And inside that row, we want to give it the deflex options there, okay? And then if we refresh it, everything should be aligned properly. Great, okay. So we have the logo, we have the front page, we have some of the other pages working, and obviously we've got our CSS and our JavaScript working. Let's just quickly add a footer. So we'll just go here on top of PHP WP footer, we'll do footer. And in our app.scss, we'll just do footer. We'll just do height of 300 pixels. Background is gray and width 100%. Refresh that. And you should see that we have that little footer here. So let's, on the front page now, add another div called, we'll call it content. Div content. And inside app.css, we'll create something called content. And we'll just give it a height of 1000 pixels right now, so we can differentiate between the content area and the actual footer. So we go back to our home page, you'll see now that we have our home page, we have our content area, and then we have our footer there. Okay? So I think at this time, we want to just add in all the WordPress functionality so we can add in content using the WordPress CMS. And then from there, we can add in WooCommerce. So the first thing we want to do is go into our front page and our page theme files and add in some WooCommerce PHP code that will allow us to grab content from the text editor here and put it into our theme. So let's do, within our content div, PHP if have posts, while have posts, show me the post. Okay, and then we do PHP the content within that. It's kind of like it's a loop. And then we do PHP end while else end if Okay, so what that is going to do is allow the front page to display content. So let's go and get some lorem ipsum text. Let's just copy all this and we'll paste it into here. And I had a slight difficulty with that, so let's see what I've done wrong. So it says that on line 30, so line 30, as you can see, end while should else should be like that. Refresh it, and now that content that we've added in comes up and it looks like that. So it's a bit weird. Let's fix it. So firstly, within content, we want to put it in a Bootstrap container. And then we also want to reduce the size of the content to auto. So just remove that and refresh it. So now we have it within the container, and it's also, sorry about that. It's also mobile friendly, well, reasonably mobile friendly, this content here. So we just got to tidy it up so it works well. We then want to make content have some padding. So padding 2 rem at the top to bottom and then 0 from side to side. You can make it more if you want. You could probably make it 4 rem. Cool. Maybe 3. All right, so that's done. You notice that it doesn't actually look very good on the mobile right now. So if you make it smaller, that hero is ridiculous. So let's fix that up. So in our hero, we need to do a couple of rules. So let's make it so that if the media, if the size of the screen is a minimum of 1200 pixels, then the height of that hero will be 550. Otherwise, let's make it for a mobile 300 pixels, okay? Or for a mobile or a smaller device. Also do another one, which is for something that's 768 pixels. We'll make that 450. So let's refresh it now. You'll notice that it now kind of makes it a bit better. But what we want to do is make it so that it works properly on a mobile so that you can see the picture on the mobile. So to do that, we need to go into here and do background size equals cover. And we'll refresh it again. Now we should see the lady there. Fantastic. You'll notice that she's not in the same position she was before. So we could potentially change that by mucking around with the background position, but I'm not going to waste too much time on that. One thing I've just noticed is the logo is a bit strange there as well. So it's right on the edge and we don't want it to be exactly on the edge. So let's go to a header and we will just make sure that we put, okay, so again, I've done something a bit incorrectly here. We need to put a column inside there if we're going to do row. And then we want to do that. Okay, there we go. Great. Okay, so we have our logo at the top, we have our links, we have our front page with some content, and we don't have any content on any of our other pages yet. Our logo at the top doesn't link anywhere, so let's make that link. If we go into our header and we look at our logo, we'll just do ahref equals php blog info URL, and we'll then save that, and now we can click on that and it will take us back to our home page. Okay, so now that we have that, we have our single pages that we might want to add some content into. So let's just add this content into the other pages as well. Great, so now we have these pages and they have content in them as well, but they're not displaying. So what we need to do is go into, let's go into our front page. We'll copy this content here, this whole area here, and then paste it into our page.php. And if we refresh that, the content should now come up. But what we can do now is probably remove this main container thing, put it inside there, go into our app.css and make sure that, and just remove this one. And there we go, it's all uniform now. So we have our front page, we have our sub pages. Now in WordPress allows you to have page featured images. So they're called post thumbnails. And so if you wanted to have, say, a large image at the top of the screen without having to include the image in the text editor, you can create something called a featured image. But as you can see, we don't have that option right now. So what we want to do is we want to go into our functions.php and we want to do, I'm going to change this to add support, and we're going to make it add theme support post thumbnails. Save it, refresh the screen, and now we have the ability to add featured images. So let's go and add a featured image. I don't have many images on my computer. I think I have, I have none. So let's just go and find another image that we can use. Now you want to probably make it as large as possible, just so it can fit. Okay, so that's not a good image. Let's just do tools, size, a bit larger than that. Yeah, let's use this one. It's quite huge, but we'll use this one, a bit bigger. It's a WebP file, it's not a JPEG. Okay, save this one. All right, that's a JPEG file. We'll just call it fashion.jpg and just save it onto the desktop. And then we want to go and find that file, which is on our desktop, upload it. And you'll notice that the image is now there and the featured image. If we view the page, the image isn't there. We need to actually put it into our theme. To do that, what we want to do is go into our page.php and let's just maybe put it on top of our title. And we'll just do PHP, the post thumbnail URL, and then we want to specify an image size. Now WordPress is excellent with this. Whenever you upload an image, it will automatically check what pre-created sizes you've determined WordPress to have, and it will automatically create different sizes of that file to fit. Okay, so what we want to do is actually go into our functions.php and create a couple of different sizes. So go into functions.php and let's go add image sizes, and in there we're going to do add image size, and we're just going to call it post image. And then we're also going to specify the size. So let's just say if you upload a huge image that's like 5,000 pixels by 2,000 pixels, you want it to be a bit smaller. You don't want to upload such a large image because it's going to slow down your website. So let's tell it, I want images to be 1,000 by, 1,100 by 600 or 750. Okay. And we're going to tell it that we want it to be cropped. So if the image is huge and it can't find the exact aspect ratio to make it that size, it will crop off parts. Otherwise, you can make it false, and then it will keep the same image and it will just try and make it as much that size as it can. Okay. So now that we have that post image in there, if we go onto our page.php, which I'm just going to get out of all these other things because it's getting a bit confusing here. We called it post image. Okay, so we'll just save that and we'll go and refresh it, and it's not going to work, but it will link still to that image. So let's go image source equals, and then copy that and paste it into there, and then do class equals image fluid, and then just do margin bottom 5, for example. That's a Bootstrap class. Okay, we have our image now, but one thing you're going to notice is that this is a massive image. It's 2000 by 1000 pixels. It's quite a large image, so we don't want it to be that large. We want it to be 1000 by 750, which is the one that we created. So because we already uploaded this image before we made the change, so we uploaded the image before we added this in, WordPress hasn't converted it. So from any images you upload from now on, it's going to create the post image size. But for any that don't exist right now, just download a plugin called Force Regenerate Thumbnails. Actually, you need to add it. And we'll just install it. And we'll activate it. And then if we go to the admin and go to settings, I believe, no, whereabouts is it? Let's refresh it. And there we go. Tools, Force Regenerate Thumbnails, regenerate all thumbnails. It's done the fashion one now. So if we go here and go to our About Us, you'll notice that it's been cropped to fit 1000 by 750. So let's change that to make it a bit better. Let's make it false. So it's not going to crop it. And let's just make it 550 here. And then we'll go and do the same thing. Tools, Force Regenerate Thumbnails, regenerate. There we go. So it hasn't cropped it now, and it's kept the same ratio and tried to make it the same width and height. So there we go. But if we inspect it now, it's only 1100 by 550, which is fantastic. That's what we wanted to do. So that's how you add a thumbnail and different image sizes into WordPress. Okay, so now that we have the basics happening, you might want to add a sidebar. So there are things in WordPress called widgets. Of course, we don't have access to widgets because we haven't added in the functionality for widgets. So as you guessed, we'll go into our functions.php, okay, and we will add the functionality for widgets. So it's not exactly the same as, say, adding support for menus and post thumbnails. We just have to create a widget, and then it will allow us to view widgets. So the first thing we need to do is add a widget, and we'll call it a page sidebar. So we'll do register sidebar, and within there we want to do an array, and then we'll do the name, which we'll call it page sidebar, and then we'll do an ID, and we'll just call it page sidebar. We'll give it we can give it a class, but I won't give one yet. And then you have to do class needs to be in inverted commas, and then we do before title, which is the title of the widget, where you'll see what I mean. But when you create a widget, you can type a title, and this is the class for the title. We'll just give it h4, and we'll do after title, and we'll close the h4, and we can give that a class later if we want to. Okay, so now that we have created the sidebar, save it, and we should then be able to view widgets. So there you go, we have page sidebar there, and then we can say drag things into there. So let's just drag pages into there. We'll just call our page website pages, okay, just as an example. So we've created the widget, but now we need to we want to put it on our pages, right? So we need to make that work somehow. So to do that, we need to go into our page.php, and we need to add in the sidebar code there. So one thing you could do is we could create a new folder called we'll call it sidebar.php, and that's part of the standard setup for a WordPress theme. So I've done it wrong. I've created a folder. I need to create a file, new file, sidebar.php, and inside sidebar.php, let's do PHP dynamic sidebar, and just do page sidebar, which is the name of this, page sidebar. Okay, And then in our page.php, we can just do, for example, just showing you how it works, PHP get sidebar. And that will get this sidebar.php because this is a WordPress thing. And then it will call the widget. So let's refresh now. You should see website pages now, about us, contact us there. Okay. Doesn't look good, but it works. So now what we can do is we can go into our theme and let's grab this image our featured image, and take that out of the container for a second. And inside our container, we'll do div row, and inside div row, we'll do div col lg3. So it's basically div class col lg3. That is a Bootstrap class to say 3 columns. And we'll put the sidebar into there. So that's going to be a left column, which is a size of 3. A Bootstrap grid has 12 columns. And then div class col lg9, and we're going to paste this into there. And then we're going to grab this image and we're going to paste it into here on top of the content. Let's just give the image an alt, and the alt will be the title of the page. Done. Let's refresh the page now. We should see our sidebar and then our content to the right of it. Cool. All right. So let's style this sidebar slightly. So let's just make it so that it doesn't have all those ugly bulleted points. So let's just do, it's got the class of widget, okay? So we could just go into our app.scss and it keeps on removing the CSS colors. So let's go widget, and then we'll do list style type none, margin 0, padding 0. There we go. So that does one of them. And then within there, we need to then get the other unordered list. So we'll just do ul list style type none, padding 0, margin 0. There we go. Okay, so we have our widget, and our widget can also have a border. Let's just do a border of 1 pixel, solid, some sort of gray. So we'll just do like 999, and then we'll give it a padding of say 1.5 rem. Didn't really do the padding very well. I'm not sure why. It's because I overrode it here. So we'll just do padding underneath that and remove that. There we go. And maybe give it a border. So border, box shadow, 0px, 0px, 10px, RGBA 0.25, and we'll also give it a border radius of 0.5 rem. There we go. And let's just remove the border color now. There we go. Okay, so one really handy thing in Bootstrap is that we can make the sidebar scroll down with you. So let's just go and do something called div class equals sticky dash top. Refresh it, and you should see it say sticky. Okay, and just to make it a bit further on down, we'll just do top equals 50 pixels. And now there you go. Whenever you scroll down, it's going to follow you, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now we have the basics of a WordPress theme. Unfortunately, I can't go overly in depth with this because then the video will never end. But we have a basic theme, we have a home page, we have a single page. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to do a single post and a blog archive. And then after that, we're going to install WooCommerce and make WooCommerce work within this theme. And that should be it. So to do a single page, what you could easily do is you could just grab all the content out from a normal page, go into single.php and paste it in there, okay? And then what we can do is we can go into our blog or into our WordPress, go to posts, let's get rid of hello world. And we'll go add new, and we'll just do test blog post. And let's just grab some lorem ipsum text again. Paste it in there. And we'll create a category called blog, and we'll publish it. Now that we have a post in a category called blog, we can go into our menus and we can go to categories and add blog there. Now we have our blog. If we click in there, it's going to show you nothing again. So what we want to do is go into our single.php, copy that code and put it in archive.php as well, all right? Refresh it and it's going to come up like this. Now that's not how we want it to show. We don't want it to show the whole blog post. Firstly, we can just remove the whole sidebar, or we can keep the sidebar and we can then add in a sidebar just for blogs. So let's just leave that there for a second. What we want to do is we want to, in the archive, make multiple blog posts show up. So I'm going to create one more blog post. And I'll grab the same content from here. We'll call it test blog post 2. Paste that in as well and put it under the blog category. Okay, and you'll notice that if we go to blog, it's now showing test blog post 2. We need to set up a loop within here, and the loop is already there. So what we need to do is copy the title, put it within this loop. Also change content to the excerpt. There we go. And then we go refresh. And you'll notice now that we have 2 and 1, okay? And we have some images there that are not showing for some reason or another. So to sort that out, we need to, let's just get rid of this image for a second. Actually, the reason why images aren't showing is because they don't exist in the actual blog post. So if we firstly, let's just set up the link. So href equals php the permalink, and that is going to link the blog post to its respective page. So we'll click in there, it'll take you to the blog post page. Okay, but there's no image that exists. So we need to do an if statement here that says PHP if has post thumbnail, PHP end if. Okay, and let's repeat that on all of the pages that we've had that image into, because otherwise you're going to come up with a broken link if there's no post thumbnail image. There we go. So let's go test blog post 2. There's still no image coming up there, so let's just save that. Great. Okay, now if we go into test blog post 2, we add a featured image. Let's use the same image we used before. We'll update it and we'll refresh the post. Now that post comes up with the image, and we go to the blog and that image comes up as well. Awesome. And you can also make it on the actual archive that the link, the image goes to that link as well. So just wrap the A around it. There we go. So you can click into it, it'll take you there. Awesome. Maybe you want to separate maybe you want to wrap your archive blog posts in a div. So let's just do div class equals blog post. And then close it off. Go into our app.scss and do blog post. And then we want to do padding 1 rem, and maybe we can give it a box shadow like we did with the other ones. And the syntax again is stuffing up, so I have to look into that for a long-term solution. And there we go. And then maybe do, say, a margin bottom of 2 rem. Great. Okay, so we have our blog post. We can click into it. It'll take us to the blog post. And one thing we don't have though is we don't have the sidebar. So let's go and create a dynamic sidebar which will be used for our blog. Go into functions, go into widgets, register another sidebar, and we're going to call it blog sidebar, and we'll call it blog sidebar there as well. So then we want to then go into our sidebar.php and copy this out, because we're not going to use sidebar.php for the blog archive. And then go in there and replace that with this and make it blog sidebar. So now if we refresh it, nothing will be there because we haven't added anything to the blog sidebar yet. But then if we go into our appearance, widgets, you'll see blog sidebar there. And then you could just do recent posts and latest posts. Save it. Go to our blog. You'll see our latest posts there. You can go into our single and it still shows the same. So we need to go to our single.php and also put in blog sidebar. You can add as many widgets as you want to, and then you can just style the widgets however you see fit. Good. So we have our archive, and then you might want to put a tag cloud or whatever you want to. To add tags into each blog post, it's quite easy. Firstly, we need to just go into a post, add some tags. So let's go test, test2, test3. And then we'll view the post. We don't have any tags there, obviously. We just need to add them into the template. So let's just go here and just do PHP. So this is in single.php, by the way. The tags. And this will automatically use WordPress to, actually, we'll have to do echo the tags, I believe. It's still not doing it. Am I in the right post? Yes. Okay. I think it might be get the tags. Apologies, I haven't done this one for a while. Actually, I think we might be in the wrong post. And you know what? I've just made a silly mistake where I haven't actually saved the actual blog post. So it needs to be saved first, obviously. And then you'll see when I do get the tags, it comes up with an array. So we want to just do the tags, because the tags will echo out each tag. There you go. So now we have the tags. Fantastic. You also might want to do paging so that you only show up to 10 blog posts per page. So let's add in the paging functionality on our archive.php. To paginate the archive page, just go onto Google and just type in WordPress paginate links. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's quite a long code. Scroll down to the bottom, you'll see basic example. Just copy that, okay? Now let's go into our archive.php. And we will then post it in there. So what we want to do is probably do it underneath here, underneath the loop. And we'll save that now, and we'll go into our blog, and you'll notice that nothing happens. And that's because we don't have enough posts. So if we restrict the amount of posts per page to say to 1, that will mean that we can only show 1 post per page on our blog archive, and therefore the archive links will come up. As you can see, they're now working. So to edit your post per page, just go into settings reading, change it to the amount you want, and as soon as it shows us the amount of blog posts there are at the limit of blog posts, it will automatically start paginating, which is what you want. You can obviously style all of this by just looking at the class. So the class is, there's no class for this. So you actually need to maybe do something like this. Create a div around it. Div pagination, for example. And then in your app.scss, or in your CSS file, pagination, a color, let's just make it red for the sake of this example. You'll see there that now it's red, and you can obviously do as much as you want with CSS with that. Okay, so we've done pagination, we've done the single blog post, we've done the archive as well. So let's get into WooCommerce now. So WooCommerce, as you know, is a fantastic solution for online shops, relatively simple online shops. It is really, really easy to install in WordPress. So the first thing you need to do is just go into there, go to into the admin, go to plugins, go to add new, and then type in WooCommerce. So let's install WooCommerce now. And once WooCommerce installs, we'll just configure it to Australian settings because I'm in Australia, but obviously you want to configure it to your country. Once that's installed, just click on Activate, and then it's going to take you to a wizard that will allow you to set up WooCommerce quite easily. So we'll just wait for that wizard to come up. Okay, cool. So we're based in Australia, or I'm based in Australia. I'm just going to do any address. Australian dollars, plan to sell both physical and digital, and we'll go, let's go. We will not set up any payment options yet. Actually, we'll just make Stripe there. And then we'll also allow all this stuff. Flat rate of delivery for $10. We'll just delete all of this stuff or remove all of this stuff. We don't want to activate Jetpack, and we're ready to go. So let's visit the dashboard. Remove all these messages, they can get quite annoying. And nothing's changed on our website, but WooCommerce is now installed. So WooCommerce automatically installs some pages. You'll notice that it's installed Shop, My Account, Checkout, and Cart. So what we can do is we can actually go into our menu and add Shop to our top of our menu. And then what you'll notice is that the shop link is here at the top of the page. Okay, and it has the sidebar because if you go into pages, you'll notice that they are pages. So they will be using the page template. The ones that don't use the page template are the product page, basically the product and the archive page. Okay, so now that we have our shop there, I want to then add some products. So let's go to products, create a product. I'm going to call one called T-shirt, and I'll grab this T-shirt here. T-shirt's already there. I did that without recording just to quicken up the process. So we have a product category called test, which I've already created. And then I'm going to create one called T-shirt 2. And let's just grab another T-shirt. And we want to just get some lorem ipsum text to put into there so that we can see, I'm just doing it on my other computer here, see a bit of text related to the product. Cool, okay. And now that we go to shop, we should have two products, one called T-shirt, one T-shirt 2. And then you'll notice that we have a picture, some content. Let's go and add some content into the short description as well of each product. Because this text up here actually shows under here, but if you want some text underneath here, it needs to be the short description. Okay, that was the wrong product. There we go. Okay, so we have t-shirt, we have an image, and we also have a bit of text. Although we can't add the product to cart, which is a bit strange. And the reason why it's looking strange is because we have not declared WooCommerce support in our custom theme. So let's go onto Google and we need to declare WooCommerce support. And you should see that in the theme developer handbook, there is something here called declare. Where are we? Declaring. Okay, so basic usage. Just copy that, paste it into our theme, into our functions.php file. And then you should see now that when we refresh it, it looks much, much different. Okay, so shop looks different. The product looks different. Everything's looking a bit different. So what we want to do is now go into our theme, create a new file called woocommerce.php, and then grab the content from page.php and paste it into there. Okay, and if we do that, it's going to look weird. Okay, we don't want it to do that. We want to remove this sidebar, make this column 12, and then take all this out and do PHP WooCommerce content. Now WooCommerce is going to use, it's basically a function within the woocommerce.php file, which will grab all of the WooCommerce needed functions for it to work. Okay, so now if we go into shop, our products come up. We click into the product, it comes up within the container as well. So basically every single WooCommerce page is dictated by this woocommerce.php file. So if we add in something like that, okay, hit refresh, it's going to come up there. It's going to come up on our shop page. It's going to come up on the checkout page. It's going to come up everywhere. So let's just remove that then. And you'll notice that it's using the WooCommerce styles. So you might want to overwrite styles. So we can fix that. But if we go into the product, you'll notice that it doesn't have a price. And that is why we can't add it to the cart. Great. So now we have the add to cart. Let's add it to the cart and we can go to checkout and we can proceed to checkout. And you'll notice now it's starting to look a bit weird because the checkout page and the cart page are classified as pages, not as WooCommerce inverted commerce pages. So what we want to do is create another page template that is shared by only the checkout and the cart pages. So to do that, go to page.php, copy the information, save it again as, let's call it template WooCommerce template shop.php, and in there we want to go into the header and do / template name shop page and close it up so it's almost like a comment. And then we want to remove the sidebar, make it col LG12, and then just take away this post thumbnail thing. And then go into our admin theme, go to checkout, make that have the shop page template, and also make cart have the shop page template. So if we then go into our theme and go to shop, add to cart, view the cart, you'll notice now it's using the template we created. So if I add stuff into here and refresh it, it will be shared on the cart and will also be shared on the checkout. Now, this is the big thing. We're having problems with WooCommerce and Bootstrap because Bootstrap and WooCommerce both use the same styles when it comes to columns. So Bootstrap use Flexbox and Col1 is a Flexbox thing. So we need to overwrite this. Now, the only way we're going to be able to overwrite this is by overriding WooCommerce templates. Now let's do it. So let's just get rid of that. And let's go into our folder. Let's go to our WP content and plugins and go into WooCommerce. This is the WooCommerce theme plugin page. We need to go into templates, and we need to see which template is affecting that. So this is the checkout page. So it would be checkout folder, and then you'll notice that there's a few things here. So what you can do is, if we go to form checkout, you'll notice that it's there. The col2, col1, all that stuff. So we do not edit the plugin files directly. We copy over the plugin files. Okay, so copy over templates completely, go back into our theme, and then paste them in. But then you rename it to WooCommerce. Now that we've renamed it to WooCommerce, it means that every file in the WooCommerce plugin folder is being overridden by the ones in our theme. So technically, we could say go into checkout, go into form checkout, and type something in there. Let's just type whatever, okay? And we'll go to our checkout, refresh, and you'll notice that that text is there now. So that means we can control it now. So you don't have to have all of the files in here. You could delete all of them and only have the ones you've overridden WordPress or WooCommerce with, which is probably the most, probably the best option, but I'll just keep them in here for now. So then let's go into the file. So let's go to form checkout, and let's change this so that it does not use col1 and col2. Let's make it col-lg6 and col-lg6 and give this a class of row. And now you'll notice that it will work as expected, but still not exactly as expected. So we have the columns now, but you'll notice that these are not exactly how we want them to work. So we need to figure out why this isn't happening. Okay, so yeah, we basically just need to do something with this WooCommerce input wrapper. So let's go into our app.scss, and what I'm going to do here is actually create one called WooCommerce. So we're just going to do import WooCommerce. Actually, we'll create the SCSS first. So WooCommerce.scss, and that's just to keep all your WooCommerce stuff separate. Then what you can do is WooCommerce, and inside there, change the syntax to CSS again. We'll do WooCommerce import wrapper, and then we'll do width 100% and display block. There you go. So you can obviously target your inputs to make them look nicer. I'm not going to do them in this tutorial, it will take forever, but what you could probably do if you wanted to do it quicker is just right click on one of the inputs, grab the CSS that's affecting that, and then instead of doing it within this WooCommerce container here, we just paste that in, and then you can do, say, padding, 1 rem, background, gray, etc. There you go. So that's how you can kind of target the elements. Now that I've done it, I should probably make it look half decent. Give it a height of, say, 30 pixels, and then border 1px solid, and then use a CSS or SCSS thing called darken. We'll darken the gray by 30%. And it actually didn't work, so maybe that doesn't actually work within the border. Okay, so it's still not doing it. So border 1px solid, we'll just do important. With WooCommerce, I've had the pleasure of working with it quite a lot, and if it doesn't work, you might have to give it important, which means that WooCommerce is overriding the styles. Okay, so that's how you make it work. So let's place an order. It says there's no payment method, so let's go into settings, and we will go to payments, and we'll just allow direct bank transfer. Okay, and I'll type in some details. Now, obviously the styling isn't exactly how you would want it. So you go in there and you style it however you want. The best way to target anything would be to just right click on it, find out what the class is. So let's just say this class here is that, copy the whole thing, or just copy, say for example, that WooCommerce form label, all right, just as an example. Paste it in, font, or make it a color of blue, for example. And there you go, it's overridden the style there. We might not be able to use Sass exactly how we want it with overriding WooCommerce, but it still is good practice to have it in a different WooCommerce SCSS file, so it's nice and tidy for you. So I stuffed up my order. I'm just going to type in the details again, and let's place the order. The phone is required. Okay, great. So let's type in the phone. And the order has now been placed, and you'll see also there's an issue here. Same thing with the columns. So we need to go into our WooCommerce folder, our overrides, go to checkout, and I believe it could be, this is a bit of a, I think it might be order receipt. Is it order receipt? No, it's not order receipt. It could potentially be review order. No, billing and shipping. Okay, so I'll just find it. And it is in order, and then it is in order details customer. So we do exactly the same thing. We just need to take away these columns. So make them col LG6 and make this one col LG6, and then put the row around them. So just do row here and refresh that, and that should work as expected. So that is pretty much the end of our basic WooCommerce theme tutorial. As you can see, we've created a basic WordPress theme, and then we've incorporated WooCommerce into there. Styling is a different a totally different thing. It will take forever to show you how to style something. Everyone has their own requirements for styling, but this should get you on the road to creating your own theme and your own WooCommerce store quite fast. Hopefully everything I've shown you on here is straightforward, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I would be happy to help you. I will be introducing a WooCommerce plugin pack in the comments below, and that will basically include a lot of the WooCommerce plugins that will help you get started, such as table rates shipping, and a lot of other plugins, probably about 10 or 12 plugins, and it will be at a set price. So you'll save tons as opposed to going and buying them directly on the WooCommerce website. Keep an eye on the comments for that. Otherwise, that is it for me, and good luck with your project. Thank you.